Why, hello everybody. It is I, your boy, H-Boy. And what am I going to be doing today? I'll tell you what I'm going to be doing today. I am going to be reading the reviews of the Haribo sugar-free gummy candy gold bears. I know this sounds ridiculous. Why the hell am I reviewing on Amazon a review of a candy? Well, you'll see why in a second. Because I remember once someone told me that the reviews for the sugar-free things are incredibly funny because of what the aspartame does to you. So they said it would give me a laugh. So I'm gonna do it. But don't worry, I'm not gonna be like that Toviando guy who constantly laughs at his own jokes. Even though I might break out snickering a few times, but my sense of humor is not whack enough for that. But you'll see. Anyway, here we go. Scroll down to the reviews. Okay, customer reviews. Let's do this. Okay. Perhaps not to eat best of many at one time per hour. These are yummy, soft, and extremely delicious. You'll get a lot of money, it's well worth it. Perhaps it's not best to eat one mini at one time. It's all up to the individual that decides whether enough is enough. Also, during the taste test, I'm not sure my bowel shot out of me, but somehow I can do arithmetic again. Thanks, Haribo. Okay, that's a little random. Okay. Disappointed, not a joke, real review. Did not work as expected. This review is in no way a joke. I have to use gummy vitamins due to a surgery I had in the past year. I had them in my medicine cabinet in my room, and 2 kids got into them and ate about 400 of them in one sitting. Again, I am not joking. So I bought these and put them in my vitamin bottles. Gone and no diarrhea. I left the bag out. I ate over 3 pounds in one sitting again and no diarrhea. It was meant to be a natural consequence. But the consequence was yet on me because those were a total waste of money. Okay, that one's not good. Okay, let me see if I can find a good one. Okay, tastes great. The end results were not. This is not a warning. This will cause your rectum to enter turbo mode and empty your entire life out of your rear. You can try these in moderation. You can try waiting days between eating them. It does not matter what. They're inevitable. They will destroy you from the inside out. On the plus side, these are the best laxative you would buy. Seriously, it cleans the entire thing. You want to lose 5 pounds in 5 minutes? Just eat these and wait for the results. Whoa, that must have been bad. I don't think I've ever had them. However, there was one time I had something. There was a bad root beer, but that's not important. But well, that person, I bet it got them good. Okay, let's see what this person says. Recently, I've experienced a terrible loss in my life. Eating can be a consequence of such a sad event, as it seemingly makes you feel better emotionally. However, I also find... Okay, I did not... Okay, most of these are boring. Let's get some of the... Because these are all the good reviews. Let's sort them a little. Let's do just the bad reviews. Oh, you ready? Okay. Okay, I'll do that. Hell holds. No surprise anymore. Oh, this is a big one. This one might be exciting. This is a cautionary tale. Unlike most of the other reviews on the product, this is a true story, and its authenticity can be qualified by a small news item that appeared in the Toronto Star's local news section during the month of April 2013. I would consider myself a prudent man, not to give the bouts of outspokenness to craving attention, and certainly not one of the lock throat, and certainly not to rock the boat. On any given day, I can be found reading a crime novel on a park bench on the middle of the city, soaking in the opulence of nature while nibbling my tuna fish sandwiches and fending off the victorious gulls and squirrels that threaten to spoil my response. This is me, law-abiding and introspective. This is why it came as a shock to me that myself they insanity because the devil's confectionery, Satan's sweetmeat, Lucifer's lozenges, that horror known as Haribo sugar bears. Okay, this doesn't sound good. I bet you know where this is going. If you don't know where this is going, then you'll find out, because let me tell you, I bet this is going to be epic. So are you ready? Let's do this. Also at the scene, it was late winter, or early spring in Toronto, and the city had just been digging itself out for the late season snowstorm. I was heading to the Pearson International Airport for a red-eye flight to Amsterdam to give the Dutch arm of companies... The Dutch arm of some company some training on the new software that has been installed. I'm deliberately being vague to plan my place of work to being linked in any way to the incident occurred. Well, here's interesting, because what's the thing is, notice how he's saying it's an incident when literally they were just gummy bears, and he's saying that the incident was so bad he doesn't want to tell them where his work is, so you know this is not going to be good. I bet you know what's going to happen. Either way, enough of that. Back to the story. Okay. I had just finished packing, checked the time, and found out I was running late. My flight was at 7:10, and it was now almost 5 o'clock. Cursing softly, I ran to the car and threw my bags in the trunk, hitting the gas a little harder than my usual haste to make the long-term parking lot as soon as possible. Luckily, the traffic was light on the 401, and I made it to the airport in record time. But I knew that my chances of making the flight were still at risk if I didn't use my time wisely. I hadn't eaten since lunch, and I was feeling a bit hungry, my stomach rumbling loudly in protest. Okay, not important. Sorry, I'm not good at pronunciation. Which caused me to look around the other travelers listening passing the busy tunnel. Mortified that my bodily noises might be heard by others, I briskly checked my watch and decided that I had enough time to grab a quick snack before going through the baggage and check in security, and would not get something more substantial once I checked through security. I spotted a vending machine nedged in a relatively low traffic corner in the tunnel and rushed over. Already pulling out my credit card and mentally assessing what I had a craving for as soon as the time to save interacting with the machine. My eyes scanned the careful array of confection, quickly revealing on a tantalizing rainbow-colored bag of gummy bears with a simple white and red logo, Haribo, embezzled along with to be a slightly tweaked Helvetica rounded font. Okay, not too bad. I'd like to pause the story here for a moment to underscore the importance of making proper choices. I was hungry. When you're hungry, you should eat food. Food is defined as a nutritious substance for people to consume and maintain life. This is what food is. 3 days, the definition of food has been standardized by the meaning and has been broadened to include any material that can be digested or rather chewed and swallowed without causing death or severe illness. Haribo sugar-free gummy bears are not food. They aren't even from this planet. Okay, you know it's going to be bad. I imagine their origins being conceived in a boardroom in hell by the top of the creative pain administrators, with senior-level demons rubbing their hands together in ghoulish delight as the chief chemist slowly lifts the veil on the new creation. Well, by now you can tell this candy is really hated. So, I've never tried it, but now I'm tempted to give it to somebody as a prank. But that's not important. Anyway, the point here being I made a very, 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 three varies poor choice. I pushed the button on the vending machine and ejected the brightly colored bag onto my hands, waiting, and I always liked gummy bears. They were bright but rather innocuous. They weren't overly sweet as to become cloying, and of course each candy came in the visage of a rather happy, docile bear, and I just run pictures in my notes of all Athamoki Yogi bears from Yogi to Winnie. I'm assuming Winnie the Pooh he means by that. The way I figured it, taking a bit of holiday from life so I can relax in my fantastically regimented daily schedule a little to add some frivolity. After all, I was going to be in Light of Amsterdam within 16 hours to kill before training the duchy employees. Maybe I could take a trip down to coffee shops of the red light district to really let my hair down. Nope, I wouldn't do that. I would see the air of my city from a bus. I went to the hotel to eat at the hotel restaurant and drink sparkling water. So I better enjoy the gummy bears. My one extravagance to the commemorate for my break routine. I'm actually surprised. Why would people make long stories on Amazon reviews? That's actually a good thing. I joined the Q and KLM line, which was mercifully short, most likely because all the passengers on my flight have already checked through the other flight as I was scheduled to depart in the hour. I checked my watch again before it absentmindedly opened the bag of the sugar-free gummy bears. Remember, sugar-free, that's important. And began to munch on one of them as the line slowly advanced. To be fair, they tasted fine, just like any other manufacturer's brand of colorful candy. And they were sugar-free to boot, which made the whole incident that followed so baffling. If they had tasted off or different, I wouldn't have continued to shovel them in my mouth while daydreaming about what I had to order from room service in my hotel in Amsterdam. As I gave my attendant my e-ticket, she weighed me bags, and the first pains in my stomach began. I thought of nothing out of his first, chugging into the fact that I needed something more substantial than gummy worms to tackle my hunger, but they were bears. Maybe they made a mistake. Over the course of the next 5 minutes, the shooting pain became more and more rapid succession. To this point, I had boarded my boarding pass and rubbed my stomach a little. I proceeded to get security, briefly entertained through trying to find a restroom before going through security, but at that point my discomfort was manageable. I don't think it can get any worse, certainly not within the amount of time it would take to clear security. I joined the line, finishing my passport to present the agent checking lines. I felt a thin sheet of sweat break out from my forehead and underarms. The features flushed for a moment, and the heat washed over me. I didn't pay much attention as As I heaved through going through security, causing me great anxiety, I chalked it up to pre-flight jitters. It was only I stood face to face with the agent that I had my passport that I had a glimpse of the agony that was about to begin. It felt like the time rippled for a moment, as if my conscience buckled so intense that the pain that fired through my bowels. I grimaced spastically and emitted a low moan, and I felt myself take an involuntary step sideways. Stars shot through my head, and my vision blurred, and then snapped back into focus. The pain must have been bad. So the agent asked if I was alright. I pulled myself together, stood up straight, and declared that I was fine. I was mortified. I had a lapse of decorum not only in public, but at the security clearance at an airport. As I stumbled off my belt to go into the metal detector, the pain in my stomach increased, and I practically had to sit on my floor to take my shoes off. Terrified at what would have happened if I bent to the middle to do it, it was becoming increasingly more evident that it wasn't just a stomach ache. No, it was something much worse. As a child, I had a bout of the squirts after a trip to Mexico with my family. Remember the feeling of nausea, strep soup before my child self-out surrendered to the pains and parked myself on the toilet for an hour, pooping until I felt like I didn't have any bones left. And that's how I was feeling now. Several key differences. The pain was worse. The sense of impending bowel movement was so formidable that it was giving me temporary amnesia. And it took all my willpower to clench my cheeks together to prevent my sphincter from exploding. A sudden shock of pain racked my body, and I wondered if I was going to give birth to a Tasmanian devil. Whoa. The crazy fever-induced image of a cartoon animal chasing Bugs Bunny through the splashy volcanic kettle that was my stomach. This caused me to elicit a short mechanical bark of laughter as I approached the metal detector, a riled, distant look in my eyes. Sweat now beginning to pour off. Notice how he put P-O-O-R instead of P-O-U-R, but that's not important. Like a long-distance runner in Kenya. My security agent on the other side of the detector shot a quick glance over to a coworker and narrowed his eyes and made a subtle movement toward his holster. My breathing became uneven as I entered a metal detector, and I realized this alarm that I had taken my socks off without even registering it, and that one of my shirt tails was untucked to the front. I held my breath, my eyes bulging dangerously from my head as the machine scanned me. As I shakily moved forward towards the agent for a pat-down, my stomach began to elicit sounds that could only be described as otherworldly. It started off as a sort of bubbling sound, heard from afar, and grew in pitch and essentially at an alarming rate. My jaw dropped in shock, and what I can only describe as the sound from an agonized, wailing alley cat, with a persistent Doppler effect added to its voice to emit it some nether region of my intestines. The officer's eyes whined in alarm, and she kept her eyes glued to my stomach as she thoroughly patted my down. As she reached my shins, I felt my innards slowly expand and plummet towards my rectum. With cat-like reflexes, I squeezed my sphincter and shut what seemed like nanoseconds to spare. And I knew if I get to the bathroom immediately, I would mess myself. That wouldn't be good. With a Herculean effort and all the strength that I could muster, I forced my cheeks together, knowing that one false move would open the floodgates. I would begin to walk like a duck, remain as incompious as possible, not even caring about how the others were in front of them. A disheveled, barefoot, 40-year-old businessman, red-faced, bulgy-eyed, swaying profusely, shaking like a duck without bending his knees, single-mindedly, intentionally, I must carry on. Shoes and socks on the plastic tub that passed the X-ray inspection without putting anything back on. I turned on my heels with the intention to find the nearest restroom, slowly dying that one squirt at a time. But that's not what happened. Okay. Wait, how long is this story? Well, it's a very long story. So, I might just read this story and then do the rest in a part 2. I turned to go and found myself staring at these armed agents who stopped me and asked me if I could follow them. Why? What's the matter? I stammered, wincing slightly to the act of speech that seemed to restrain from the tedious and fragile truce that negotiated between my bowels and the tempest that raged within. I have to go to the bathroom right now, I pleaded. Just follow us, please, and they said, leaving no room for argument. The other travelers, clearing the security check, and the curiosity and revulsion at the spectacle unfolding before them, whispering amongst themselves and hurrying back to their packages far away from me as possible. Assuming that the airport had nabbed some sort of domestic terrorist, I had been feverishly trying to hold back the eruption of Mac Vesuvius. I likely would have died of shame. With each step, towards the room that they ushered me into, I felt that my legs would give way. I marveled at how strong the human will could be. I marveled at what essentially patching the hole in the Hoover Dam with bubble gum could actually be sustained indefinitely. Maybe I would make it through this ordeal after all. The room they brought me to was an examination room. I pretty much stopped registering details of my environment as my consciousness closed off, but the absolutely necessary functions, breathing, ability to walk, I snapped back to reality when I heard the snap of rubber. The slow dawning realization poked through my agony, and as I turned to the agent donning rubber gloves. Sir, we are going to perform a cavity search on you, a young, fresh-faced agent from a firm but emotionless voice. His short-cropped long hair was immaculate. For a crazy moment, I was wondering if he was an actor and this was some sort of elaborate practical joke just to amuse kids watching YouTube. Like you. You're watching me on YouTube right now. He must have taken my tortured silence for a resistance because he looked at me shyly and said, "Now lower your pants, please," and face the desk. Panic started to grip me in his icy grasp, and the sudden adrenaline threatened to destroy my sphincters and rend me in two. I inhaled sharply in a panicked gasp. I doubled up my efforts to clench my cheeks together. "Sir, please," I begged, deferentiating to this little act of desperation. "I need to go to the bathroom. You can follow me to the stall if you need to, but I just had some bad Haribo sugar-free gummy bears, and now I feel like they stopped listening and smoked to each other." A tall, dark-haired female and a shorter, balding, fat man looked away from me, and I could see them shaking as they stifled their laughs. "Sir, face the wall and put your hands on the desk and spread 'em," the young agent asked. Lost a grin on his face, but I began to protest, and then a fresh look of pain forced me to stop and lean on the table as ungodly howling rose from my stomach. Something between the dying moans of a woolly mammoth and the sound of a bubble wrap popping underwater. I exhaled shakily and began to focus to narrow as I rallied for the final battle. Shaking uncontrollably and sweat literally raining down from the tabletop in front of me, I turned to face the wall and I heard a meek, childlike voice pleading from somewhere in the room. "Please," it said, and then again, "please." From somewhere between my minds I recognized the sound, although my consciousness began to sprung from my body and began to pray to God to strength. Okay, at first it was a normal slice-of-life sitcom-like story, and now it's becoming a full-on horror story, so this is starting to get epic. Because of how long it is, as I said, it'll probably just be this one video, and I might do a part 2, though, of different stories if this gets popular. He probably had left something up there that opened up, the female guard said as part of me that hasn't escaped to the exterior yet. He's probably like a kite. "Look at him," he said. The other shorter greeter right off to my right. "Spread 'em," the young agent said, his voice directly behind me, then Ben. "Oh, please, God, please, God, please, 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 please," I whispered in a desperate mechanical mantra, not even aware of my surroundings anymore. I felt like I was lost in an opium fog with half-snatched images and sounds filtering through to create a nonsensical version of reality. Another volley of pain tore through me as involuntarily leaned forward to my desk. My focus completely narrowed to a spot on the wall in front of me, a curious imperfection which seemed to be a whitewashed wall of stone. It was dark, large, about 5 millimeters long, shaped like a smiling bear, a dancing bear, no, a green bear, no red. It was all the colors of a rainbow. My God, it was beautiful. Something as simple as it just took something as a bright breeze to trigger Armageddon, and that's all. No trumpets, no fanfare, no fire raining from the heavens, no dogs and cats living together in harmony, no finger on the bun, no prophet to predict it, no nothing. As I started the rainbow bar smiling and dancing in front of me, my mouth agape, drooling eyes, and glazed and bloodshot, face coated with a sheen of shred. It was the softest sound, an exclamation from the agent behind me. In the same instant, the warm air of his breath feather across me. For just a moment, maybe less, maybe a split second, even a nanosecond, I felt the presence of God there with me in the room as neurons began to misfire. A nerve ending bristled and muscles twitched reflexively. I stood there on the brink with one foot hovering over the edge, and the other thought, without taking a step, I found myself plummeting. I sounded like an extra large plastic ketchup bottle being run over by a Mack truck. My sphincter released. The pressure of that blast pushed me so hard onto the desk, and my legs on the desk screeched as they scraped across the floor. My body remained rigid for a moment, then the relief that can only be described as purity. My eyes rolled back into my head as my tongue rolled off like a half-retarded dog, and I emitted a low, sustained groan. That fluent pitch of the filthy torrent pushed its way out of my body. Oh my goodness, what just happened? Tremors racked my body. I must have looked like a fish out of water with an endless stream firing out. Other sounds and sensations started to filter as my consciousness began to materialize once more. The muffled scream of the dungeon filled with prisoners near death radiated from my stomach. The rushing sound of liters of liquid trying to escape through an aperture is too small to accommodate some of the same, with the chunky liquid spiraling across the hot cells of the great force. Ugh. A high-pitched screaming of a woman coming out to gob, uncontrollably imploring to make it stop. My own ecstatic monotone wail. Ugh. When my ordeal had eventually run its course, I was panting for breath and wobbly-legged, half crying, half laughing with relief, and a very lucid feelings as I had birthed an elephant. My colon felt like something that had poured chili sauce all over it, then set a colony of fire ants to eat it. Though my sobs, I heard the sound of dripping like with the sprinklers eventually turned off after an office fire. After a thunderstorm when the willow overhangs a pond, continues to rain out long after the sky has stalked from behind me. The sobbing continued, and I heard someone trying to speak into a walkie-talkie about nonsense it was, while the man can speak, which sounded like the ravings of a lunatic. With great... Oh, you can see the end. With great relief, I slowly pulled myself off the table, legs trembling, my stomach licking one last sound, a prolonged bubbling that eerily resembled a pig. I slowly turned around to survey the devastation of that incident. I had a pencil as some object. I probably would have gouged my eyes on the revulsion and the smell. The smell was enough to drive a man insane. It was the stench of running potatoes mixed with sulfur and ammonia. Ugh. Cooked in the broth of chicken poop and left in an age for 2 weeks in a nasty stew at the bottom of a French outhouse. Wait, why French? That's what I want to know. Why French? After half a whiff of this ghoulish brine, I immediately stopped breathing through my nose, but left the taste was to remain in the back of my throat for months. A young Asian had the brunt of the foul witch's brew. First, I couldn't process what I was seeing. Somehow the young blonde kid had been spirited away and replaced by a brown golem or an ATV rider that spent the better part of the day driving through every mud puddle he could find after a torrential downpour with a degree of compensation. Came to understand that for some unfathomable reason this kid hadn't moved or had been able to move through the entire deluge. He had weathered the entire problem head on like some sort of hero from Greek mythology. I had given this poor schmuck a one-man band that would make a Brazilian wretch with disgust. Why Brazilian? Like, first the French and then the Brazilians. Why does he keep pushing nationalities in this story? I don't know. But it's still a pretty epic story. I do have to give him credit for that. It's a pretty epic story. The young agent had the brunt of the... Wait, you read that? And he was still in the same position he was a moment from the first impact. He tried to comprehend how he must be feeling. But he must be going through psychologically that he become very broken. No doubt forced to be so deeply within himself once the fire hose has been turned on, there was little no hope from ever coming back of it. Certainly not without extensive psychotherapy. He looked beyond his quivering catonic crouch trying to see a perfect outline of him cut out on the white wall behind him. Either side filled with a dripping opaque layer of pulpy and runny stew. Ugh. I noticed two quivering masses of the other extremes in humanoid form. Although the caterwauling was coming from these broken creatures and bubbling gibberish on the tableau that was burnt in my eyes my eternity. Needless to say, I missed my flight. Well, that's sad. He never got to go to Denmark, or no, the Netherlands. I don't know if it was most likely Holland, but he'll never get to go just because of the gummy bears. And I highly doubt that story is true. Wait, it's not done yet, but I highly doubt the story is true, though, so it's probably false. And the next week is a blur. I have vague recollections of an army-sized hazmat cloud figures looting through the brown landscape of the sword room, slopping sounds of rubber coats and squeaking puddles of controllable wailing analyte sounds running through the mouths of the creatures that have been traumatized beyond their capacity for being put back together. The complete loss of the sensation from my waist down as I rolled through the waterproof gurney, its wheels struggling to surf to the top of the soaked floor. I spent a week in the hospital enclosed in a ventilated steel room with the doctor coming to my vital signs as they tried to rehydrate my body. I had apparently expelled every available drop of water that was possible to sustain life without a short period of time. All of my clothes were incinerated, blech, and the soil bag of Haribo sugar-free gummy bears was never recovered. This is my story. It's inconvenient It's inconceivable to think that this kind of product can be sold legally and misinterpreted as food, but luckily I survived. But as for the families of the survivors and the survivors themselves, they still live in the trauma that took place at the Pierce International Airport on April 2013. I really don't think that's a true story, but now I'm actually curious. I'm probably going to do research once I'm done the video. Okay, let's see. This one doesn't seem that exciting. I'm going to read it anyway. What's in this? Ugh, what is that? What is that? What the hell is that? It looks like a bunch of gummy bears stuck together, which doesn't seem too bad, but... See that? Looks like a bunch of gummy bears stuck together, which isn't too bad. I like the other story better, to be honest. Okay, let's see what this one. This one doesn't seem... Okay. I'm so perplexed by this story. I'm not sure who to turn to. The health department, perhaps they can guide me. Something that looked like there was a bright light, but in fact there were two little white worms. Ew. I've been eating Haribo products for years, but for some reason it tastes odd compared to the Haribo products from other reason. My reason for the bad views because I emailed customer service not to send me the Brazil product and to send me the actual gold bag. I got this imposter bag, whatever the hell this is. I don't know what that is. False advertising. Say it's Haribo, but it was actually King of Sweets. So it was just false advertising, if you will. Hopefully it was still good. Melted mass. Ew. Okay, most of these are just knockoffs. So that was a big story. I might read more. I'm going to see if I can find any more stories. Any more exciting big stories like that. Because that story was actually pretty... That last story was actually pretty epic. It was like... I know the story's probably not true. But I really want to know... I really want to know if that's true. So what I'm going to do... is I'm going to try to get some research. I want to see if I can find some research. Because research is what I want. Okay. I want to find that one where I'm not impressed with the last one. But, so you can see this is some crazy stuff. Anyway, let's try this one. Okay. I read some reviews. Now let's read some questions, because that might be exciting. Are you ready? Have aliens tested the bears giving the warning that the packet out of gastrointestinal causes for eating a product not of the earth? I assume aliens are smart enough to trust the said warning label, but I just said that's only my assumption. Okay, let's see the next one. But I highly doubt aliens have ever eaten it. Because I don't know any aliens, but none about aliens. Let's go to the next one. Will eating the entire bag in one sitting give you an exorcism? Pay money, Wubby only ate 40 live on his Steam, and within 2 hours he was having his very own exorcism. If you eat a whole bag, you might implode. Oh god. What's this? Will I get Hiroshima if I only buy the 5-pound bag, or will I buy the 3.53 bag and have the perfectly same outcome? So let's see what they say. The ratio is perfectly balanced with a megaton of sphincter force. The bag is more gentle Stinger missile. But take approximately 1 pound to achieve Hiroshima on your bum. The truly brave can eat 5 pounds with a sphincter core meltdown to match Chernobyl. Oh my god. Okay. Okay. Are these the ones that pour hot sludge in your pants? Awesome, but no, the sugar in these. The sugar-free ones will turn your tighty whities into frowny brownies. Oh my god, this is just... It's pretty wild for a candy review, I gotta admit. Okay. Shall I experience the same foul demons as these other people? Only if you decide if only you decide if the demons arrive. As best you can sphinx out the gas. Oh my goodness, I want more questions. How long does the burn last? Haribo started the fire. Okay, I like that. Has anyone videotaped these guys to see if they come to life after midnight? What? I'm not hoping they're not due, because they're 5 bag and they could cause some serious problems. So these are starting to get a little more ridiculous. Let's see, any 2-star stories? That would be... Need 2-star stories. To avoid the Brazilian one. Okay, anyway. That's enough for now. I might read some later. That was your boy, H-Boy, and I'll see you next time.